Hi, welcome to Preacher Perspectives with John Williams, a journey of empathy, insight, and growth. Hey, I'm John. I'm out here in a park today and decided that I was going to make a video for the channel, the second video. So please bear with me. There's going to be noises and things that I can't control, but I think I found a pretty nice quiet spot for the time being. So my purpose for this particular video is based on me wanting to help you all get familiar with me, to understand my background, my journey, and where I have gotten my insight from, the things that I experienced that allows me to be able to pass insight and information on to you. I've lived with depression most of my life, and I wasn't formally diagnosed with it until 2017, thereabout. And once I was diagnosed, I had something to focus on. I wanted to understand how to help myself during intense depressive episodes. Yes, I was taking medication and under medical treatment, but that alone wasn't enough. I felt like I needed to be able to do something from inside of myself to combat the stressful thoughts and emotions that depression would visit upon me. I didn't understand the origins of these thoughts. I didn't understand why I felt so low, why I had such low self-esteem and low self-confidence for so long. I didn't understand where it came from. I didn't understand why I had such a hard time feeling comfortable in my own skin and simply being myself. So, with the help of my late husband, Travis, I began to try to figure out ways to figure this out. And I decided to go back in my memory to my childhood with an adult perspective and revisit some of the things that occurred in my childhood and examine how I processed them as a child with a child's understanding, and why those emotions stuck with me throughout my life and didn't mature as I matured. Because we handle things, we perceive things differently when we're children than we do when we are an adult. So I began to do a retrospective, introspective of myself. And I came to understand that there was one factor in my early life that was at the root of my problems. Now, before I go on, I must say that some of what I'm about to say can be very problematic for a lot of people. People don't typically speak this way about religion. But I am, because I was harmed by it. And I think it's important to face the things that harm you, to take back your power. My family loved me. They spoiled me. This is not about finding fault or placing blame against anyone, because what they did with me with regards to introducing me to religion at such an early age is traditionally and faithfully correct. They believed in their hearts that they were doing the best thing anyone could possibly do for a child they love. So there's no malice in my heart. There's no hatred or resentment towards anyone. In fact, I appreciate that they did love me and care about me so much, and truly believed in their heart that they were investing the right things in my life. However, what they didn't know, what no one knew, was at the age of 5, I knew about myself. I knew about myself to the degree that I knew that I did not want to do the things the other boys were doing. I grew up in New York City in Harlem, 1980s, and back then, I don't know if it's still common, but back then, there was a common activity in elementary schools that kids did, and it was called humping. And humping was essentially boys finding a girl and getting her in the stairwell or in an empty space where no adults were, and physically pressing his body against hers, fully clothed, but just for that sensation of pressing against each other. And it's hot. And me as a kid, when I witnessed this activity going on between kids, I didn't want to hump the girls. I wanted to hump the boys. Or I wanted the boy to hump me. That's where my mind was. It wasn't sexual. It was preference. I don't think any of us had an actual concept of sexual intercourse. I think kids were just copying what they saw on TV or adults doing at home, things of that nature, pressing against each other to kiss. And I knew that I didn't want to do that with any of the girls. I wanted to do it with the boys. So, as a kid, I just thought that's just the way I am. I didn't think anything good or bad about it. And then all of a sudden one day, at a church service, I heard this word, abomination. And I heard the explanation and the reason and rationale for it. And I immediately knew they were talking about people like me. That scared me. It shook me because now, see, as a kid, I was very literal. I didn't understand figurative speech, metaphors. So I had already heard that God knows everything about you. He made you. You can't hide anything from Him. So now here I am, 5, 6 years old, sitting in church, realizing that I'm an abomination. And God doesn't like abomination. So what am I going to do? How did I become this abomination? Well, God made me this way. Well, why would He make me this way? He must not like me. Because they said He knew me before I was born. So that meant if He wanted me to be not an abomination, He could have made me not an abomination. But instead, He made me an abomination, which means I'm going to burn. So why make me? That was the end of my self-esteem. At 6, I understood that I was made to be destroyed, which meant I had a big secret to keep, which meant I had to worry about keeping the secret instead of worrying about playing or watching cartoons or, being a 5-year-old, 6-year-old with a floor full of Lego blocks. I had to strategize and worry about what's going to happen if people find this out about me. Are they going to turn me into a abomination and kill me, or kick me out of the family? And I was scared, I was worried, and I just felt hopeless. I kept trying to figure out ways to fix and change myself. Here comes some noise, I can't help it. To fix and change myself, and I'm 6'5", and I'm worried. My mom loved me to death, my grandmother loved me to death, my whole family loved me to death, and I'm looking at these people, and I'm like, you know what, if they're going to find out that I'm an abomination, or they're going to put me out. And the reason why I felt that way was because I heard adults talking in the streets. No FAG is going to live in my house. We're not about that. It's not going to happen. I heard people, family and outside of my family, refer to other people as FAGGTs, and they wasn't being nice about it. A lot happened around that, but I kept my secret. And then all of a sudden one day, about 7 or so, a family member that I was very fond of called my mom's phone at our house and said, "Hey, I want to take John out for a ride." And this was so special to me because I loved going in cars. It was rare. My dad had a car, my brother had a car, but not everybody had a car. So when someone close to me had a car and they asked my mom, she said, "Yeah, we'd love that." And I went downstairs thinking it's just going to be me and this particular person. But there were 2 other people known to me, safe people that I cared about and liked, in the backseat of the car. I'm thinking this is going to be great. They're treating me really special. None of my other cousins are here. It's just me and 3 grown people that I like. We're going to have a great day. I'm thinking we're going to go to Woolworths. I'm going to get a toy. We're going to go to McDonald's. I'm going to get a Happy Meal. But we drive past all of that, and we're headed towards the West Side Highway. And just before you get into the West Side Highway on 125th Street in Harlem, in New York City, there's an area that's beneath a overpass bridge. And under this area, at that time, it was very dangerous, dilapidated, broken cars, crackheads, drug addicts, murders, prostitution, broken down appliances, you name it. It was a dumping ground for trash. And the highway is just beyond it. So I'm thinking we're going on the highway to New Jersey where there's a mall, or to Yonkers where there's malls. But they turn into this area. And when they turn into the area, they stop the car. And when they stop the car, I instantly have fingers in my face telling me, "You better fix yourself. We don't have this in the family. We know. You better fix yourself. You're not going to be the first one to bring this into the family. I don't care what you have to do, 7-year-old, but you have to fix yourself. If that's what you are you?" And of course I said no. Of course I denied what they were talking about. I didn't want to be a abomination, and I didn't want to be rejected by my family. I didn't want to be put out. I didn't want to be harmed. I didn't want to be called FAG. I didn't want to be that person. So I lied, and I said, "No, that's not who I am. Don't worry. I like girls." They left me alone. I went home and cried, and eventually moved past it, continuing to keep my secret. And then sometime later, I think at this point, I had reached 8 at this point, 8 years old. And someone came, an adult male, came to my home and said he wanted me to go into the room with him to watch TV. So he opens the door to a room, and I go in, and there's a chair directly in front of the TV. I sit down, no chair for him, just one for me. And I'm in front of the TV watching, and it's like a news documentary. And what I see on the screen are white men, sick, in a hospital bed. They all had purple spots. They were all very, very thin and looked like skeletons with some flesh still stuck on them. And outside of this hospital, there were people holding signs. And the signs said things like, "FAGs burn in hell. This is God's punishment for FAGs. Hospitals are not supposed to help abominations." They were angry with the hospital for allowing the people to come in and treat them. There were patients in the hospital who were insisting on switching hospitals because they didn't want to be in the same hospital with people that God was punishing. And all of this I was made to watch. After it went off, the person said to me, "This is what's going to happen to you if you're that way. God is going to give you AIDS, and you would deserve it. So if you're even thinking about being like this, you better fix yourself. You better figure it out." I had another adult around the same time offer to purchase a prostitute for me to fix me. Now please bear in mind, I never once opened my mouth and said to anybody that I was this way. All I did throughout those years of my life was flat out deny it. So I have a little bit of a side message here for those adults in society who like to insist that children can't possibly know about their sexuality. They can't possibly know at that age. I want to tell you how incredibly wrong you are. Because see, I knew, but guess what? I didn't tell anyone. So if I didn't tell anyone, what did those adults see in me that made them sit me in front of the TV or drive me in a car to a dangerous location to scream at me about not being that way? They did it because they saw it, because it was in me naturally. Somehow they saw it. I wasn't feminine, but somehow they got the clue. And that means this wasn't a choice after puberty. This wasn't a choice at all. This was something that was developing in me, and I first became aware of it around 5 years old. So you're wrong. And the reason why the adults in my life didn't know was because I wasn't safe telling them. And I wasn't safe telling them because I'd already heard their commentary on the subject. I already knew it was unacceptable. So why would I talk to them about it? It was around maybe the age of like the latter months of being 8, early part of being 9, where my mom finally decided that it was time for me to be baptized. And leading up to the baptism, I was repeatedly being told about what God was going to do. I was going to be renewed, born again. I was going to receive the blood of Christ or the Holy Spirit, and I was going to become a new creation. And all of my sins and all of my wrongs were going to be wiped clean. So I was excited. I was looking forward to this baptism. I believed that finally this was the answer that I had been wanting to fix myself, to become normal again. And I went forward with it. And after I came up out of the baptismal pool, all I felt was wet. But all the adults in my life that were present were standing around, and they began to ask me questions like, "How do you feel?" And "I can see the glow on you," and "Do you feel brand new?" and et cetera, et cetera. And I said yes, because they were the adults, and I knew what they wanted to hear, and I knew that they did not want to hear no, so I said yes. But I didn't feel anything. I thought that maybe it was a slow process, this cleaning up. So I went home and I waited and waited and waited, and weeks went by and I was still the same. And that was the end of my self-love and my self-confidence, because now it's been confirmed that God doesn't like me. See, they had already told me that God knew me before I was born, that God made me the way I am. So in my mind, again, not understanding figurative and metaphoric speech at that age, I'm thinking God made me this way on purpose to punish me on purpose because He made me. Why would He make me an abomination unless He wanted me to be one? And He doesn't accept abominations. So I just gave up on feeling any kind of self-value. Kept my secret, pretended my way through my childhood. I wore the costumes I had to wear in order to be accepted by family and community, but it was never really me. I couldn't really be me. I didn't have that option. And that's what depression was feeding off of. I didn't know who I was, even as an adult, because I spent my whole life trying to be a mirror image of what society and family and religion wanted to see. I never developed my own true self. And when you don't develop your own true self, well, there has to be something. And that something for me was depression. The story doesn't really end there, but there's only one more point that I care to make. And after this baptismal attempt, life went on. Puberty came, 12, and I didn't feel comfortable or safe going to anyone in my family or my community to ask questions because I already knew what they thought of people like me, and I already knew that it was unacceptable. I already knew that I couldn't verbalize this to anyone. So instead of going to people that I should have been safe with, my family, my father, my brother, I cut high school class one day and I went on the train to the Village, Christopher Street, which is an area in New York City in Lower Manhattan designated for gay people. I didn't know anything about nightlife. I didn't know that people didn't go out there until after 10 p.m. I'm down there at 2 p.m. This black boy walking down Christopher Street, fit body. And of course I met 3 white men who were more than happy to talk to me. Now these men did not do anything physically sexual with me. They didn't touch me. But what they did do was they exposed me to sexual material. They said sexual things. They were descriptive about sexual acts. They were also encouraging. They told me that I wasn't the only one having this problem. There were a lot of kids like me. I could have a lot of friends there and people to talk to who understood, who wouldn't harm me or judge me or wouldn't throw religion in my face. But they did talk sex with me, and I did see these men in the nude. All of those were still illegal things that shouldn't happen to a child. So imagine your own children. When you don't know what they're feeling or going through, and you say things in their presence, and you have them practicing a faith that they may not fully comprehend at such a young age. Don't be surprised when your children seek other adults for advice and attention that they should be able to come to you for, but they couldn't because you've already expressed your opinion without knowing or understanding what your child is dealing with. I often wonder if that's how a lot of sexual assaults and kidnappings actually occur. You know, the kids going out of the window to meet adults at night and things of that nature. What had they heard their parents saying or their family saying that made them feel like they needed to find another adult to go to? So, this was video 1 in this series. Thank you for listening. I hope there was some insight for you. This is my story. I am not bashing religion. I'm not bashing other families' choices. All I'm doing is expressing a reality that should be considered if you're going to involve children in something as sophisticated as religion, developing children, growing children into something that can be as complicated and scary and confusing as religion. So that was the beginning of my negative view of myself, of my lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. And those things grew into the fires that fueled my depression. So by visiting that and addressing that, I was able to revisit all of those emotions and experience, but with an adult mind, from an adult perspective. And I began to correct the lies. I began to correct the misinformation. I was never an abomination. I never had to fix anything. I never had to change anything. I never had to hide anything. Or at least I shouldn't have had to hide anything. I was not someone deserving to die from AIDS. I was not someone deserving of rejection and exile from a family. All of those things that I had been told were untrue, but I believed them because any child would. But as an adult, I know better. So when I was able to go back and replace those emotions with confidence and understanding and the realization that I was perfectly fine back then, my depression became less intense around those areas. I'm going to leave it here. Thank you for spending this time with me and watching and listening. If you haven't subscribed or clicked the like button, please do so, because there's going to be a lot of deep content coming. I have a lot to reveal. And I know for a fact it's helpful to people because I've already helped people with this information, just not through a YouTube channel. Please share this video with your friends, whether they face depression or not. And please comment and share your stories or ask your questions. So again, thank you for your time and have a great day.